I never expected my sister to turn my mother's death into an opportunity. But the night I realized what she'd done, something inside me cracked. Not in anger, in clarity. When Mom passed, I was already drowning in grief. I wasn't thinking about money, paperwork, or bank accounts. I was just trying to breathe without breaking. But my sister, Laura, she seemed almost energized, focused, like she had a plan before the rest of us even knew what day it was. At first, I convinced myself it was just her way of coping. Some people stay busy to avoid feeling anything. I tried to believe that. I really did. But then she started taking control of everything. Every document, every account, every conversation with the lawyer. She didn't ask me anything. She didn't update me on anything. She just moved, silently and confidently, as if the entire estate belonged to her alone. And that was the moment I felt the first warning in my chest, the quiet whisper that something wasn't right. Before we go deeper, let me say this. If you've ever watched someone you love twist grief into power, you'll feel this story. And if you've ever felt small or ignored in your own family, I want you to hear every word. Because what happened next didn't just expose my sister, it exposed everything she thought she could get away with. If stories of justice, truth, and quiet revenge resonate with you, stick with me. There's a lot ahead. Laura and I weren't always like this. Growing up, she was the loud one, the bold one, the one who always wanted to be in control. I didn't mind. I was quieter, more patient, and honestly, conflict was never worth it to me. She pushed. I stepped back. That rhythm kept the peace for years. But when Mom got sick, something in Laura changed. She hovered over everything. Appointments, medications, financial decisions. At first, I was grateful. She lived closer and had more time. It made sense for her to handle most of the daily responsibilities. Still, there were moments. Little things. Times when she'd shut a door behind her before making a phone call. Times when she'd rush to grab the mail before I could. Times when she'd say, "Don't worry about it, Mark. I've already handled everything." I wanted to trust her. I kept telling myself she was trying to help. When Mom died, the house felt like a museum of grief. Quiet hallways, untouched rooms, and a refrigerator full of food no one wanted to eat. I was sitting at the dining table when Laura walked in with a stack of folders tucked under her arm. She didn't sit with me. She didn't say Mom's name. She didn't even look tired. She looked prepared. "These are the documents we need to go through," she said. "I've already sorted most of it, but there are a few things left." The way she said, "I've already sorted most of it," should have been my first clue. As the days passed, she kept taking control. She met with the estate attorney without me. She closed 2 of Mom's smaller accounts without saying a word. She even decided what items from the house were worth keeping and quietly removed them before I even had the chance to look. I didn't push back, not yet. I was still too raw, too tired, too caught in the fog of losing the one person who always made me feel grounded. But one night I saw something I wasn't meant to see. Laura had left her bag open on the kitchen counter. Inside, peeking out from a manila envelope, was a letter from the bank. I recognized the logo. I recognized the phrasing. It was about the estate account. And it was addressed only to her. That was the moment something in my chest tightened. The kind of tightness that doesn't go away. The kind that whispers, "This isn't an accident. This is intentional. This is a plan." I didn't confront her right away. I wish I could say I stormed into the room and demanded answers, but that's not who I am. I've never been the explosive type. I sit with things. I watch. I wait. Sometimes that patience feels like a weakness. But in this story, it became my greatest advantage. For 2 days, I kept my distance. I watched Laura move around Mom's house like it already belonged to her. She'd shuffle papers, make calls, and give me these vague updates that never actually said anything. Every time I asked to see a document, she'd tell me it wasn't necessary. "I've got it under control, Mark," she'd say. "Just trust me." Trust, that word tasted bitter. On the 3rd day, I went back to the kitchen. I waited until she went out to take a call. Another call she didn't want me hearing. When the door closed behind her, I opened her bag. I know how that sounds, but by then, I'd realized something important. You can't betray someone who's already betraying you. Inside her folder, I found a stack of bank statements. Every one of them listed deposits, withdrawals, account numbers, and her name was the only one on the correspondence line. My stomach dropped when I saw a highlighted figure near the bottom of one page. $240,000. That was the full value of Mom's estate account. Every savings she'd built, every dollar she'd tucked away for our future. And Laura had positioned herself, deliberately, as the sole point of contact. She wasn't planning to share it. Not even a little. I held the papers in my hands, and for a moment, I felt betrayed isn't even the right word. It was something deeper, something heavier. The kind of hurt that comes from someone who knows your heart and chooses to step on it anyway. When she walked back in, I slipped everything back and pretended nothing had happened. She didn't notice a thing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling in my old bedroom, thinking about Mom, about the way she used to cut my face when I was overwhelmed, saying, "Mark, you don't have to fight every battle, just the ones that matter." Mom, I thought, this one matters. The next morning, Laura called a family meeting, which was just the two of us sitting in the living room while she spoke in long rehearsed sentences. She said the estate was complicated. She said she'd been handling everything to reduce stress. She said there were unexpected fees. I listened, calm, quiet, too quiet. When she finally took a breath, she added, "Mom didn't leave as much as you think. I'll show you the breakdown when everything settles." That was the final push. Something cold settled inside me. Clarity, maybe, or resolve. Later that day, while she was out, I went to Mom's old file cabinet. The metal drawer screeched as I pulled it open. Inside were folders she'd organized over decades, labeled in her careful handwriting. Insurance, taxes, medical, retirement. And then, estate planning. I opened it, expecting the usual documents, nothing more. But halfway through the stack, something caught my eye. A thin, cream-colored sheet with faint creases along the edges. It was a beneficiary form, and the signature at the bottom was unmistakably Mom's. My heart slowed. My breath steadied. I read the lines twice, then a third time, making sure I wasn't imagining it. She had named me. Me, not Laura. And this form was dated years after the will Laura kept referencing. Years after the documents Laura had been waving around like shields. Suddenly, everything made sense. Every secret phone call, every locked door, every vague explanation. She'd found this form, and she had tried to bury it. I held the paper against my chest and closed my eyes. For the first time since Mom passed, I felt her with me, not as a memory, as a force, as if she were saying, "You were never forgotten, Mark." I made sure of it. When I opened my eyes, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The real fight was about to begin. I didn't realize how long I'd been standing there, holding that beneficiary form, until my fingers started trembling. Not from fear, from something sharper. Something that felt like finally waking up after weeks of being kept in the dark. I slipped the paper into my jacket, pressing it flat against my chest so it wouldn't bend. I wasn't ready to confront Laura yet, not without understanding everything, not without knowing exactly how deep her plan went. So I did what I always do when something feels too big to face head on. I slowed down, I breathed, and I started paying attention. When Laura returned that night, she walked through the door with the kind of confidence you only have when you believe you've already won. She didn't even notice the slight shift in me, how I watched her more closely, how I measured her words, how I no longer accepted vague explanations. She went straight into the kitchen, sorting papers again, acting like the entire house was hers to manage. "Long day?" I asked. She froze for half a second, surprised I was standing right behind her. "Yeah," she said. "Estate stuff, you know." I nodded. "I'd like to see everything tomorrow. All of it. Every document." She didn't even look up. "There's no need. I've already—" "Then it won't take long," I said quietly. That was the first moment her mask slipped. Just a fraction, but enough. She turned toward me slowly, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to read what I knew, but I kept my expression calm, unshaken. She hesitated, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Fine," she said, "tomorrow." But I knew she was lying. She wasn't planning to show me anything. She was planning her next move. And so was I. That night I stayed up again. Not staring at the ceiling this time, not drowning in grief. I sat at the dining table with a cup of cold coffee and a notebook Mom had kept in the drawer beneath the silverware. It was one of those old notebooks she used to write grocery lists or reminders in. I could still see faint impressions of her handwriting on the first page. I opened it, wrote the date, and made 2 columns. Left side, everything Laura had done. Right side, everything she didn't want me to know. The list grew fast. Too fast. Every suspicious decision, every locked door, every missing piece of information, it all formed a pattern so clear it made my stomach turn. She wasn't overwhelmed by responsibility. She wasn't disorganized. She wasn't trying to handle everything for my sake. She was executing a strategy to erase me. I looked down at Mom's name written on that beneficiary form. The ink slightly faded from time. She'd chosen me, not because I was the favorite, not because she trusted me more, but because she knew Laura's weakness, control. Mom must have known that leaving things unsaid would give Laura room to take over, so she added this form years later, a way of balancing things, a way of making sure neither of us was pushed aside. And Laura found it, saw it, and hid it. That realization tightened something in my chest. A grief that wasn't about Mom dying, it was about who my sister had become. The next morning I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming in the office. When I walked in, Laura was already knee-deep in papers, sweaty, frantic, rifling through folders like she was running out of time. She didn't hear me enter. "What are you looking for?" I asked. She jumped, her hand flying to cover a stack of papers. "Nothing," she said too quickly. "Just reorganizing." I stepped closer. "Did you lose something?" She forced a shaky laugh. "Mark, you're imagining things." But her eyes kept darting to the file cabinet, to the exact drawer where I'd found the form. She knew it was missing. She just didn't know where it had gone. I watched her with a calm I didn't know I was capable of. For years, Laura had been the one who decided everything, what Mom needed, what the family should do, what choices were best. But today the power had shifted, quietly, completely. "I want to meet with the estate attorney today," I said. "Together." Her jaw tightened. "There's no reason to waste his time. Everything's almost finalized." "Then it shouldn't be a problem." Silence stretched in the room. Thick. Heavy. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally muttered something about checking her schedule. But I could see it, the panic beginning to bloom under her skin. And panic makes people reckless. When she stepped out for another one of her private phone calls, I returned to the office. Not to snoop, not to take anything else, just to confirm what I already suspected. Every account she had touched, every document she had signed, every conversation she had filtered, she had carved me out. She had built an entire narrative where I was the passive, grieving brother who didn't care about the money or the responsibility, a narrative that made me the perfect person to erase. By midday, she announced that the attorney wasn't available for a meeting, which was another lie. I knew it. She knew I knew it. She was running out of time. That evening, I went for a walk around the neighborhood to clear my head. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the pavement. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the beneficiary form again, holding it up to the fading light. This single sheet of paper was the truth Laura had tried to bury. The truth she never expected me to find. The truth that changed everything. And standing there on the sidewalk, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to threaten. I wasn't going to accuse her of anything. I was going to let the truth speak for itself. And the truth was powerful enough to destroy her entire plan. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose that felt almost foreign. Grief had weighed me down for weeks, but now, clarity was lifting me back to my feet. I showered, shaved, put on a clean shirt, and folded the beneficiary form into a firm rectangle that fit neatly inside my wallet. Not hidden, not buried, just waiting. When I walked into the kitchen, Laura was already there, pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was low, hurried, the kind of tone people use when they're trying to solve a problem they never expected to have. She turned around when she saw me, quickly ending the call. "You're up early," she said, forcing a smile. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. "We need to talk later." Her smile faltered for a second. "About what?" "You know what?" She swallowed, and for a flicker of a moment I saw something in her eyes, fear. But she covered it fast, turning toward the counter to rearrange papers she didn't need to rearrange. "I'm busy today," she said quietly. "A lot of estate tasks." You've been busy for weeks, I said, and somehow I've been left out of all of them. That landed. She stiffened, her fingers tightening around the stack of documents. Mark, I told you. You told me nothing, I cut in, still calm. You've kept everything to yourself. Her jaw clenched. She opened her mouth, ready to argue, but before she could, I added, I'm meeting with the estate attorney today, with or without you. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut the room in half. She turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Why are you doing this? You know why, I said. For a long moment, she just stared at me, studying me, searching for what had changed, trying to figure out how the passive brother she counted on had suddenly grown a spine. But I didn't flinch, not this time. Finally, she said, fine, I'll go with you. But it wasn't surrender. It was strategy. I could see it in the way she pressed her lips together, in the way she gathered her things quickly, in the way she avoided meeting my eyes. She was gearing up for her last move. 2 hours later, we sat in the attorney's office. He was a calm man in his 60s with silver glasses and a steady voice, someone Mom had trusted for years. When he saw us, he offered condolences first. Real condolences, the kind that acknowledged loss instead of using it. Then he asked, so what brings you both in today? Laura spoke before I could, too quickly, too practiced. We're finalizing the estate, she said. Everything's straightforward. I just wanted to make sure we're on schedule. The attorney nodded. Yes, I've been reviewing the documents. There are a few things. I'd like to see everything, I said. Laura's head snapped toward me, eyes wide. The attorney looked between us, sensing tension but staying neutral. Of course, he said, reaching for a stack of folders. Transparency is important. He opened the files, laying out account summaries, statements, the will, and a distribution outline, one that listed nearly everything under Laura's name. She leaned forward, poised, ready to explain away anything she needed to. But I didn't look at the documents right away. I watched her hands. They were shaking. The attorney continued. The will is fairly simple. Most assets go to both of you, split evenly. But the estate account, that account is mine, Laura said quickly. Mom named me on that years ago. I could tell the attorney hadn't expected her to cut him off like that. He frowned slightly, adjusting his glasses. The will designates equal distribution, but beneficiary arrangements can supersede the will under certain conditions. Laura nodded eagerly. Exactly. I'm the only beneficiary on file, so the account goes directly to me. I let her speak, let her build her argument, let her feel confident. Then I reached for my wallet. Actually, I said softly, pulling out the folded paper, there's something he needs to see. Laura's face drained of all color. Mark, what is that? I didn't answer. I placed the document in front of the attorney, slowly, carefully, like setting down a truth too heavy to carry alone. He unfolded it, scanning the lines, his eyebrows lifted. This, he said, is a more recent beneficiary form. Laura lunged forward. That's not valid. Where did you get that? I found it in Mom's estate drawer, I said, right where she left it. That drawer wasn't organized, she snapped. It's old paperwork. It doesn't mean... It's dated 3 years after the will, the attorney said, and 4 years after the form you've been referencing. Laura's face twisted. That can't be right. It is, he replied gently. This supersedes the older form. The account should go to Mark entirely. Those words filled the room like a bomb going off. Laura's breath hitched, her hands shaking, her composure breaking like glass. No, he's lying. He's making this up. That's not... Mom wouldn't... She did, I said softly, and you knew she did. Her eyes flicked to me, wild, desperate, cornered. I didn't sign anything. I didn't do anything wrong. You hid this, I said. You saw it. You buried it. You tried to shut me out before anyone could find it. That's not true, she shouted. The attorney raised a hand gently. Laura, this document is valid and binding. There's nothing to dispute. She stared at him, then at me, her face crumbling as the truth settled around her like dust. Everything she built, every lie she told, every quiet manipulation, it all collapsed in one moment. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I just felt done. The kind of done that comes from finally seeing a person clearly, without the haze of memories or the hope that they'll change. The attorney neatly gathered the files. "We'll move forward honoring this form," he said. "Mark will receive the estate account in full." Laura covered her face with trembling hands. "You ruined everything." "No," I said quietly, "you did." She stood abruptly, knocking over her chair. She didn't look at me again. She just stormed out, leaving the door swinging behind her. The attorney watched her go, then turned to me with a sympathetic sigh. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I'm glad the truth surfaced." I nodded. Me too. But inside, I knew the hardest part wasn't over. Because now I had to face a different question. What do you do with a sister who betrayed you this deeply? And was there even anything left to salvage? The morning sun filtered through the blinds, painting lines across the hardwood floor. I held the beneficiary form in my hand, the paper now more than just ink and paper. It was proof, truth, and the culmination of weeks of quiet observation and careful patience. Today, everything would end. Laura arrived at Dad's lawyer's office like she always did. Confident, rehearsed, like she was walking into a stage she had already set. But this time, I noticed the tremor in her hands, the subtle twitch in her jaw, the way her eyes darted around the room, measuring exits and escape routes. The woman who had thought she could erase me from Dad's legacy suddenly looked small, unsure, exposed. The attorney greeted us both warmly but professionally, sensing the tension. "Let's review the estate account and related documents," he said. I placed the beneficiary form on the table carefully, making sure it was the first thing he saw. Laura froze. I could almost see the blood drain from her face. Her voice cracked when she said, "Where did you get that?" "Dad left it for me," I replied, calm but resolute. "It was always meant to be seen. I'm just honoring his instructions." The attorney adjusted his glasses, reading the document carefully. "This supersedes the previous form and any claims made to the contrary," he said. "Mark, this confirms that the full $240,000 account is legally yours, as your father intended." Laura's shoulders slumped, the mask of control collapsing in an instant. No, this can't," she began, but I didn't let her finish. Her denial was irrelevant now. The facts spoke for themselves. For years she had tried to manipulate, hide, and control every detail of Dad's estate. She thought she could act behind the scenes, quietly erasing my name and claiming everything for herself. But one form, one single piece of paper, had undone her entire plan, and it had been sitting right there, waiting for me to find it. The attorney handed me the final account summary. The numbers were clear, every cent, every detail, legally mine. I breathed in slowly. For the first time in weeks, a weight lifted from my chest. Justice finally had arrived, not in a storm, not in anger, but quietly, assuredly, and completely. Laura slumped in her chair, staring at the papers as if they had transformed into something unrecognizable. I felt no anger toward her now, only the clarity that comes from truth. Betrayal is heavy, but when the truth prevails, it lightens the soul. She began, voice trembling. Then she stopped. No words came. There was nothing to say. The plan she had spent months building had collapsed with the evidence she thought she could hide, and she knew it. I looked at her, not with triumph, not with vengeance, but with something steadier, resolved calm. "It's over," I said softly. "Dad made his choice, and now so do I." Leaving the office, the city felt different. The air was lighter, the sunlight warmer. I didn't need to gloat or prove anything. The victory was in the truth, in honoring what was right, and in reclaiming my place in my family's story. Back home, I opened the account online and saw the balance reflected in my name alone. It wasn't just money, it was validation, proof that fairness and honesty can prevail, even when deception feels overwhelming. I sat down and let the quiet settle over me, thinking about Dad, about Mom, about the lessons hidden in grief and betrayal. And I smiled, not for revenge, but for justice. Later that week, Laura called. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't try to explain. She simply acknowledged, "I see now." That was enough. Sometimes the most powerful lesson is watching someone face the truth they tried to avoid. And I had learned the value of patience, observation, and courage. The courage to seek the hidden truth when everything else feels lost. For anyone watching this story, If you've ever been ignored, silenced, or betrayed by someone you trusted, remember this. Patience and quiet vigilance are more powerful than immediate confrontation. The truth will always have weight. And sometimes, it only takes one overlooked document, one careful observation, or one step back to see everything clearly. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If you've felt the sting of betrayal in your own life, share your story in the comments. Your experience matters, and there's power in honesty. And if you want more stories of justice, truth, and family drama, hit that subscribe button. We share real-life stories where patience meets poetic justice, and the truth always finds a way. Before you go, there's another story you won't want to miss, about a brother who discovered his siblings secretly sold their family cabin, only to uncover a hidden key that changed everything. Click the next video to see how silence and secrecy turned into the most unexpected revenge. Justice has a way of showing up when you least expect it.